welcome back to Sportszone on Salford City Radio. Now we are talking boxing. After his huge victory a couple of weeks back at the Manchester Arena, Anthony Crolla is in prime position to take on Vasily Lomachenko. Paul, it's a big one for Crolla. How do you see him doing in this one if the fight goes ahead?
I think this is probably going to be his toughest ask. He's had some big fights, hasn't he, over his career, especially the Perez, the two fights against him, and obviously defending his world title against Ismael Barrosa. Lomachenko, you've only got to look at his last two fights against Redondo and Jorge Linares, when he's beaten both. And we watched Anthony in two epic fights against Linares. He come up short in both of them. To beat Lomachenko, I think, would be a massive upset. I mean, I'd never back against Anthony, local lad, really top guy. I think it's a massive ask for him. But these are the fights you want to be in, don't you? You want to be tested against the best. I don't think you want to go down at the end of your career and think perhaps, should I have done that fight? Should I have tested myself against him or whatever? So I think to go out there and fight the best, that's what Anthony plans to do. And I'm sure if he can pull this fight off, it's a mega fight.
When do you think people should start giving Anthony the credit he deserves? You mentioned there Perez twice, then Barroso, and then Jorge Linares, Ricky Burns, and then Dow Jordan. It's been a scintillating run of form for Anthony, some wins, some losses, but he's never backed down from fighting the very best. When should people start to give him the credit that he actually deserves?
I think he's never really ducked anybody, even at British level, when he got him with Jerry Matthews and then John Murray. There's been some fantastic fights there against guys who are probably bigger punchers than what Anthony is, and he's never ducked any of them. And he'll be the first to admit he's not a huge knockout merchant, but what he has got, and we saw that against the Dow Jordan fight a few weeks ago, it's his sustainability, the way he can go with somebody, his work ethic, the way you throw one punch, he'll throw 10, and Anthony won't duck anybody. He'll stay in there, and whoever Joe Gallagher and Eddie Hearn give him, he'll get in the ring and fight. And so to fight the best in Lomachenko, I think that's what everybody wants. That's what all his fans in Manchester want. And Anthony can sell arenas out. He's done it in the MEN. And I don't know where that fight would be. Would it be abroad? Would it be in the UK? I'm not too sure. But Anthony, he deserves the credit. He really doesn't. I mean, you've only got to ask the people locally in Manchester. I mean, he's one of our sort of famous sons, isn't he? Everybody in Manchester has so much time for him as he's such a top guy.
Now, the first super fight of 2019 has been announced. 8-weight world champion Manny Pacquiao is taking on the problem, Adrian Broner. It's a big one. It's in Vegas. Who do you see winning and why, Paul?
I've always been a Manny Pacquiao fan, but I like Adrian Broner as well. Two good fighters, but I have a little soft spot for Manny Pacquiao. He's another good guy. He always has a smile on his face. Remember, it seems a lifetime ago now, doesn't it, when he fought Ricky Hatton? It's that long ago, but he's still there. I mean, how old is he now, Manny Pacquiao? He's sort of 40-ish now, isn't he? But how many fights has he had? About 60 now?
He's had a hell of a lot of fights.
He's got a massive record, hasn't he? But he's another one. He's going to go down as one of the world's greatest ever fighters, isn't he? For his longevity more than anything. So I'm going to edge for a Pacquiao victory on points, but as I said to you before off air, my predictions aren't very good at the moment. I got a couple wrong a few weeks ago, but that is a fight I'm really looking forward to on Saturday the 19th of January. It can't come soon enough.
Yeah, so Manny Pacquiao, since that Floyd Mayweather disappointment, he came back 2 good wins against Tim Bradley and Jesse Vargas. Then he looked poor when he travelled over to Australia to fight the little-known Jeff Horn. Obviously, he lost his world title that night, but he regained the world title against Lucas Matisse out in Malaysia, and he looks sensational. How does Manny Pacquiao keep rolling back the years, and how long can he possibly go on for?
And that's probably a question you have to ask him, really. I mean, fitness-wise, you look at... I'm struggling for names again. What's his name? The American 50-odd-year-old now, isn't he?
Bernard Hopkins.
Bernard Hopkins. I'm really bobbins with names at the moment. It's been a long day. Bernard Hopkins, yeah, I mean, I think if you've got the fitness, you can keep going, can't you? Manny Pacquiao's one of those guys. He never puts weight on and balloons up between fights. He lives the life. He's absolutely immaculate, isn't he? His condition. I think he could go on a few more years. Just going back to his defeat there, a couple of fights ago. I think sometimes when you go in against the lesser known people, you don't raise your game as much. And I know Manny Pacquiao at the moment, you just mentioned, reading the names off there, like Timothy Bradley and people like that. Adrian Broner's a massive name. It's a massive fight for him, and I don't think he's going to leave any stone unturned in his preparations for that fight.
Now moving on to the heavyweights, Jarrell Big Baby Miller recently signed with Eddie Hearn. He headlined out in Kansas over the weekend. He took on Bogdan Dino. He won inside 4 rounds. Now, he's a very, very big man, Jarrell. 317 pounds he weighed in at the weekend, which I think is roughly about 23 stone. He's a huge guy. Can you see him causing problems for the likes of Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder? And how could he possibly operate at such a high level, carrying all that weight?
You've taught me a lesson there, because I was trying to work it out in pounds how many stone that is, and I think when you suss the stone out, it makes you realise 23 stone is massive, but he's such a big guy. And I know he's calling out, the big names in the domestic scene now, isn't he? The likes of Anthony Joshua, obviously Derek Chisora. Those guys are there for him now, and a guy of that size, I mean, you get a punch off him and you're going down, aren't you? So he's going to be really, really dangerous, and I'm not so sure people like Joshua will want to get in the ring with him. I mean, you look at Joshua, though, he wants to share a ring with anybody, doesn't he? He wants to be the best and the unified champion, but he'd be a danger, definitely.
Now, former world champion Lucas Brown, Australia's first ever heavyweight champion. He looked incredible that night in Russia when he fought Ruslan Shagayev to pick up the title. But then he had a suspension. He came back against Dillian Whyte at the O2 Arena and he lost in just 6 rounds. Very disappointing night for him. But he's come back since then. His work ethic's improved and he's got himself back into decent condition. His comeback continues this weekend out in New Zealand. He takes on the cousin of David Tua, Junior Party. And how important is it that he gets a win this weekend and looks for big fights again in the UK?
Well, you easily drop down the rankings, don't you, after a defeat, and you become the forgotten man. I think we've spoken about it before with Anthony Crowley. I mean, you have a bit out of action in boxing for a few months, and your name doesn't get bandied about, and I think that's happened to Lucas Brown. As you said before, I thought he was really disappointing when he fought Dillian Whyte. He didn't look at that world level, he looked a level below. So if he wants to be, touted about at world level and be in these big fights, he needs to come up with the goods on the weekend.
Okay, another big fight that's been announced for March next year. Errol Spence taking on Mikey Garcia. You've got two of the very best pound-for-pound fighters in the world here, so it's received a lot of praise, this contest. But personally, if I was to criticise it, Errol's a very, very big welterweight. Mikey Garcia is just a lightweight. Is this a fight you're looking forward to because they're such high level, or would you rather see them fight people in their own weight categories?
I don't know. Boxing's going that way now, especially abroad in the States, and you've got two guys with two really big names there. You're just hoping that it's not a disappointing fight and it lives up to its expectations, because those two guys, world class fighters, aren't they, on the day, with tremendous records. You've only got to look at the guys they fought before. So I think when these matches are made, these are the fights people want to see. I know people keep talking about the Kell Brook and Amir Khan fight. Will that ever get made? Years ago it was Carl Froch, how he never fought the Welsh fighter, and I can't remember his name now.
Kawasaki?
Joe Kawasaki. I'm rubbish with names on a Tuesday night.
And you're the boxing expert. Kawasaki, then, that's your other one.
Joe Kawasaki. Well, those are the fights that people want to see, aren't they? And the names get bandied about. And I think sometimes those sort of grudge fights, if you like, whet the appetite of the spectators, don't they? And I think that's one I'd definitely like to see.
Yeah. Last boxing question of the day for you. Local lad Nathan Gorman, Manchester heavyweight. He'll be featuring on the undercard of Josh Warrington versus Carl Frampton. He's taking a big step up against former world title challenger in Australia's Alex Leapai. Now, it's good to see Nathan taking those big step-ups as he works his way towards world level.
Yeah, it certainly is. That's going to be a fantastic undercard as well. Josh Warrington and Carl Frampton. I mean, we could talk about that fight coming. What a great fight that's going to be. Josh Warrington, the Yorkshireman there, he's beat everybody who's been put in front of him. Carl Frampton, we all know about the Jackal Carl Frampton, how good a fighter he is. And yeah, the lad's got a great chance there. He's on a big stage. Sometimes you can make your name when you're on a stage like that, can't you? You get propelled onto the Sky Sports and box offices and things like that, and you can win that fight. That propels you up to that world, European level.
Hello and welcome back to the Sportszone here on Salford City Radio. It is competition time. For any Man City fans going to the away game at West Ham this weekend, there's a chance to win a pair of tickets to ArcelorMittal Orbit at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in Stratford, London. The slot is at 1:15, just ahead of the games at 3 p.m. ArcelorMittal Orbit slide is the longest and largest and longest tunnel slide in the world. The views are spectacular at the top. If you're off to the match and would like to enter, please send your name and contact details to info@salfordcityradio.org. Put competition Man City in the suggest box and tickets will be sent digitally to the winner.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting with loads of people entering that, and hopefully we'll be able to pick a winner. So, let's talk football. James, England played the United States and won 3-0. Wayne Rooney's final bow. What do you think of that?
Yeah, firstly, it's a brilliant one to get one over on the Yanks. It's always good. A big sporting rivalry from either side of the pond. As for Wayne Rooney, a lot of people criticised him getting that last appearance for England. But when you've done the things in the sport that Wayne Rooney has done, he deserved that. So I was really happy for him, and I didn't think he played too badly.
Yeah, obviously, Warder, Wayne Rooney, what a legend he is. But obviously, Gareth Southgate is building a squad for future competitions. Do you think it's right putting him in?
Oh, I don't even think there's an argument here. Like, James put it exactly right, that what the man's done for the country in the sport is absolutely phenomenal. Most capped, most scored than any other player in the team, and he's a legend. We've just had the best summer since 1980 in the World Cup. Gareth Southgate is still figuring out his team, but there's still time, and at the end of the day, it's Wayne Rooney.
It is, you're right there.
You can't say anything.
No, he is an England legend, and obviously to give him a chance to say goodbye at the National Stadium, it's a good thing for him and his family.
Yeah, and the match was for charity as well. It all went to the Wayne Rooney Foundation. It was just a great advocate for the sport and for the player of Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, and then the next game, James, all got a bit serious. They played Croatia and beat him 2-1 in the Euro Nations League. Good win that for England.
Yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic win. We discussed how it was a bit bitter for us getting knocked out by Croatia in that World Cup semi-final, so it was good to get one over on them. I think some people criticised the defending for the first Croatian goal, but I actually thought it was one of the better goals I've seen in my time. He took it past quite a few defenders, and I thought it was an excellent goal. Obviously, we came back, we won 2-1, we won our group in the Nations League, and I don't want to go too soon, but I think the whole country already thinks it's coming home in a few years' time.
I'm going early. What do you reckon?
Oh, well, I've been here before. I've been heartbroken before, so I'm gonna keep quiet for now.
Yeah, I think obviously playing big teams in big competitions, James, it helps build that mentality of what England lack.
It does, yeah, and we've been in a group with Spain and Croatia, two of the world's best teams, and we've come out on top. It shows the way England's going. We've got some young prospects in that side who are going to rally England to hopefully some World Cup victories and potentially a European Championship win in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, obviously, let's go domestic now. Salford City, who were in action this week in Wardy and beat Aldershot 4-0. Good result for them.
Comfortable, absolutely comfortable. The team is on such a high right now, and again, they couldn't be going into the Shrewsbury replay game in a better state of mind.
Yeah, obviously, FA Cup sort of replay on Wednesday. Got to be confident there.
Got to be. This is the FA Cup. They proved their worth away at Shrewsbury. People thought they were going to get overwhelmed and outplayed, and they weren't. They were dominant for patches of the game, and I really think they can take the game to Shrewsbury and go all the way.
Obviously, Paul, Salford City have history in the FA Cup, and hopefully another win adds to that.
Yeah, certainly. I think the hard work was done, wasn't it, away from home at Shrewsbury to get a draw there, to bring them back to Moor Lane. You've got to say they're favourites there. They've been excellent there this season. Going back to the weekend, an easy, comfortable, routine 4-0 victory, and I'm confident they can cause an upset tomorrow night.
James, how far do you reckon this Salford City team can go? Obviously, on a big sort of winning run at the moment. The crowds are behind them, the city's behind them. It's a great time to be a fan.
Look, it feels like it's a very, very special time to be remotely involved in the club in any way, shape or form. They've been putting an unbelievable run of form together. I think it was about 16 games unbeaten, something like that. Absolutely incredible. And they obviously have history in the FA Cup. We said, Wardy mentioned that they were expected to struggle against Shrewsbury, and they didn't. I really think it's their time, and I think we could see something very special from this Salford team.
Obviously, let's go domestic. Richard Scudamore has left the Premier League with a £5 million bonus. Wardy, you're not happy about that? Shaking your head.
I'm not happy. The rich keep getting richer, man. And we're talking. I know the talks are over, but we were talking about selling Wembley, and the FA doesn't know what to do with all the money that they haven't got. Well, we'll just give it to someone who's leaving the company anyway. It's a disgrace.
What do you think, James? You agree with that?
Look, it's utterly ridiculous. Richard Scudamore is a multi-millionaire already. He does not need this money. 250 grand a piece from each of the Premier League clubs. Just think what that money could go on. Food banks, children's charities, animal charities, cancer research. It's utterly ridiculous, and it just doesn't need to be done.
But he has grown the Premier League, James. It's a good job, well done for him. Does he not deserve his £5 million bonus?
Well, you could say he deserves it, but when you think of other things it could be used for, look, Richard's a very wealthy man. He himself should be looking to give that money to charity because he simply doesn't need it. He's comfortable for the rest of his life, and an extra $5 million is not going to mean that much to him.
You're shaking your head in disbelief here as well, Paul.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not jumping on the Richard Scudamore gravy train. But I'm the same as these guys. There's people putting out fires, and there's people saving people's lives. There's people homeless. There's doctors and nurses the nurses particularly who don't get paid as much as they should do. There's poor men who go out there fixing people's boilers as well who don't get paid so much money.
All checks.
At the end of the day, he did do a good job. So you give him a bottle of wine, you all sign a card and a packet of Ferrero Rochers, and the man's happy. You have a nice going away party, and that's that. ridiculous.
In a carriage clock, I think that'd do him really. A carriage clock. Bottle of wine.
Yeah, like I say, he's done a good job, but for me, £5 million is a lot. There's a lot of money, and the Premier League clubs all decided to have work around Paul, and that's the way it was. Disgrace. Okay, so let's look at the.
Not happy.
Oh no! Let's have a look at the fixtures for this week. James, Man United at home to Crystal Palace, and Man City are away at West Ham. What do you think there?
Yeah. Firstly, I think Manchester United will beat Crystal Palace. I know that they struggle against Manchester City, but there's levels to the game, and I think they'll do a job over Crystal Palace. As for City, it's away at West Ham. Never an easy place to go. They're a very lively bunch of fans down at West Ham, but I still think City are a bit of a class above and should win the fixture.
Yeah, and what is Salford City FC are away at Solihull? What do you think of that?
You can do nothing but back them at this stage. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep the winning form going, keep the mentality, and the results will keep coming that way.
Yeah, obviously, let's talk a bit of darts now, James. A lot of things going on there.
Yeah, very controversial weekend, actually. Wolverhampton was the home for the Grand Slam of darts, one of the biggest majors in the competition. It was a bit of an interesting fixture, really, that final. We had Gerwyn Price versus Gary Anderson. Gary, of course, a veteran of the sport, won almost everything there is to win in darts, 2 World Championships to be precise. Gerwyn Price, a man who just a few years ago in 2014 was playing professional rugby in Wales. Now, firstly, Warnie, before I get on to the actual game, how impressive is it that Gerwyn Price can change from 2 drastically different sports so quickly?
I've got to keep diplomatic here because I'm not a massive fan of the Iceman. His bravado on stage and his attitude, it really actually grinds my gears. And I'm a Welshman myself, and it still gets under my skin. But it is impressive. The man a few years ago was playing at the top of his game in a completely different sport. He's kept his physical attributes, and he's in a completely new world of sport at the top level. Again, you've got to take your hat off to him.
Yep. So the 2 men took each other on the hockey. Gerwyn Price, as you mentioned, renowned for his bravado on stage. Obviously, he was doing really well, and he was clearly grinding Gary down. Gary, of course, a little bit older, gets a little bit stressed out when people get under his skin, and you can see him getting actively riled up. Gerwyn, of course, was taking advantage of this, and it all seemed to be going well. I don't mind a bit of mind games on stage. However, it all came to a head when Gerwyn Price celebrated and sort of pushed Gary Anderson a bit with his chest. Gary Anderson, of course, retaliated and pushed him back. There's no place for violence in a non-contact sport, is there?
No, absolutely not. You've seen it before as well. All it takes is a little thing, a player maybe down by a frustrating amount, and then one little movement by the other player sends him over the edge. But you go to the darts and you know what you expect from the crowd. Everybody's dressing up and they're drinking and it's rowdy. But from the players, you expect something different. Even though it's not the most publicised sport and they're not known as athletes, these people are still role models, and they still have to inspire a generation and set an example, and there's no place for it in a sport like this.
So ultimately, it was Gerwyn Price who ended up winning the game 16-13 to pick up his first major in the sport. An incredible achievement. Now, not many men get to do that. You see the likes of Peter Wright, incredible players, but have only picked up a UK Open. Mensah Suljovic coming through just one competition. Dave Chisnell's not quite crossed that line. Terry Jenkins never crossed that line. The fact that Gerwyn Price has done this so quickly, how much does that show his potential in this sport?
I think he is the next big thing, you know. Like, you talk about these like players that come around and they change the game. Like, you think with darts, such a simple concept, that not much can change within the sport, but as you've seen, it does. The sport has moved on leaps and bounds from what it was, and I think Gerwyn Price is a man to take it on to the next level.
Yep. He had his chance in the Premier League last year, of course. He came second in the UK Open, which earned him his place. He played in the Premier League. You know, he struggled to pick up points. I don't think he actually got a victory, just 3 draws. He then tweeted that he wasn't happy in the Premier League and he didn't deserve his place. He's then had a bit of a pushing and shoving match with Gary Anderson on stage. Should the PDC look to discipline him?
I don't know. I don't think they should go to discipline him, because I think it's one of them things that you deal with it on stage. It's over. It lived and died within that moment on stage, and I think it's up to the 2 professionals to be mature and adults about it and sort them out between themselves.
So we've got the Players' Championship coming up in a couple of weeks, and then we're at the Ali Pali on December 13 for the World Championship of Darts. After his performance this weekend, could Gerwyn Price be the dark horse?
I don't even know if he's a dark horse anymore. I think a wild card is a bit more accurate. Like, I think people have underestimated him, and they've done it time and time again, and he works best like many great athletes and great sports people do when they're under pressure and when they're doubted. It's all to play for at the Ali Pali.
Now, one of the greatest darts players of all time, the Dutch darting dynamo, Raymond van Barneveld, has made the decision at the end of next year he's going to be hanging up the arrows for one last time. Raymond, he's been revolutionary for the sport. You can go anywhere on the planet and the Barney army will get behind him. What will his absence from the sport do?
I think, like, we've got Gerwyn Price and we've got Van Barneveld, and it's always these times happen in all sports where almost the baton is being passed from one generation to the next. One hangs up the boots and the other one puts them on, and I think this is the transition period. It's sad to see him go. He's a legend of the sport, but I'm sure he'll be back for a few charity matches and a couple guest appearances, I'm sure.
He's a personal favourite of mine, and he's got one more year to pick up a major title. Can Raymond van Barneveld pull off the fairy tale ending?
I hope so, because it's what you like to see in sports. You like to see them go out with grace and a win, and yeah, I hope he does win it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Both love a darts. It's been a great show so far, James. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy doing this every week, and I hope I can continue to do it.
Yeah, 6 shows, 1 hour, Wardy. Madness.
Where does all the time go?
Yeah.
Where does the time go? We could do it for 2 hours, we could do it for 3, we could sit here all night.
Yeah, and we talk all things sport in Salford every week, Paul. It's fantastic that everyone tunes in and enjoys it with us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed tonight. It's nice to get into the studio with you guys. It's been a really, really good show.
Yeah, obviously, quick one, James. Do we think Man United will win Saturday?
Yes, Manchester United beat Crystal Palace, and they do it in style.
Warner, City?
You can't doubt them. City 4-0.
Salford, Paul?
I'm going for a treble, and it's nice to see both sides playing on a Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the end of this week's Sportszone on Salford City Radio. I've been Rob Parkinson, and big thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.